I'm excited to be here today. I think this is the clicker. Yep. I'm excited to be here today. I had a lot of people coming in, and they were thanking me for being here, and we're so blessed to have you. And quite honestly, it's the opposite. I'm blessed to be here. As Jamie said, I've got a few different ventures that are kind of on my hand or in my plate. I own a training facility. That training facility has kind of grown over the years, but currently I have 30 employees that work for me there, and then I oversee, obviously, strength and conditioning with the Denver Broncos, and I've got, depending on the time of year, I've got up to 90 athletes that I'm in charge of their well-being and their performance and their care, and then I have, during the season, down to 63 athletes. So I have a staff there as well. I've got, there's a staff of 4 of us that oversee all of that, but I have to work within other departments too, because before I got there, there were a lot of silos that were built up, and there wasn't a lot of good vertical or horizontal kind of communication, and so that was the number one thing that I wanted to do, was bring in transparency and communication. We sit there and say that the athletes, they're our number one priority over there. Well then, if we're building silos, then we're being false to what we say our mission is. So, the road to success. Now, I know there are plenty of great leaders here. I know there's plenty of people that have probably way better pedigree to be up here than I do. But I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight to me and my journey and certain things that have ticked a box for me or maybe been a wake-up moment for me during my career and set things apart. I'll tell some stories, some analogies, some metaphors. I might have to pull you up here at one point and show some athleticism, if you don't mind. This is a great, this first slide right here, this is from a really kind of a cool book. I don't know if it was in any other book before this, but it was in a book called Chop Wood, Carry Water. And I took this out, and because I think a lot of people, they see, what do we see? We see, what people put on social media. Oh, man, you've had so much success. I'm so excited for you. And every time I look at you, man, you're just doing something new. And so they think it's that on the left, when in actuality, nobody saw what was happening on the right. They didn't see the pitfalls. I've been a part of businesses where maybe I didn't have the full control, but I was part of businesses that failed. Multiple businesses that have failed. What I tried to do in all those scenarios is figure out, why did it fail? What was missed? And so those were the things that I was constantly asking myself on my journey. And I still ask myself that. I had a conversation last night with one of my employees. He called me up and he said to me, he goes, "Loren, what's your mantra?" I was like, "Joe, you've worked for me 6 years. You've never heard my mantra, but I show it to you every day." I said, a mantra to me is like a slogan t-shirt. It has a shelf life. It has a shelf life. So I want to be about my mantra. I want to show you each and every day from my action. And so that's what I talked to him. But I was trying to tell him that the road to success, you're going to have pitfalls. You're going to have dumps and dives in that. The thing is you got to stay consistent on the path. So, and a lot of the things that I'm going to present today, I've probably stolen from somebody else along the way. What will your dash read? To me, so if you look at, that's a typo. He definitely wasn't born in 1872. 1972. 1972. I guess that was me that did that typo. Anyway, it's 1972. So I believe that there are chapters in your life and there are certain moments in your life that define you moving forward. We all have those things. We've all been struck with different tragedies, and they happen at different times. This happened to me when I was in college. This was my closest friend. My gosh, this guy, he was smart, he was athletic, good looking. He had it all going for him. Thank you. Nice edit. Nice job. Oh, too bad my grades weren't that easy to change in school. Golly. So he passed away. He passed away. He took his life. And I was, at this time, I was a junior in college. And I remember this day. I've shared this story one other time with one other group. But his girlfriend called me up. No, his parents called me up first, and this is before cell phones. This is the old, it wasn't quite rotary phone, but it was a phone that had a cord on it. And his mom called me up. She goes, "Hey, have you seen Jason?" I'm like, "Oh my God, no, I haven't, Oh, he said he was heading up to, he usually tells me when he's going up to Greeley to come see you." I go, "Yeah, he didn't on this time." So I was like, oh God, he used to always tell his mom he was coming to see me, but he was spending the time with his girlfriend. So I called up his girlfriend. I was like, "Look, if you know where Jason is, will you have him call his mom? She's like, we can't find him. Okay, now I started to worry. So I get a call later that night. She calls me up, she goes, Loren, we found him. He's dead. I cried, I dropped the phone, I fell to the floor, and I bawled. That day told me that I've got to do something significant with that dash. That dash in between those dates of birth and death, I better do something significant there. Because all those days mark are when we stop, when we end. It doesn't tell you what happened in the chapter, what happened in the story within the chapters. This was the chapter for me that really started my thought process. I better maximize my time here. So 1973, not 1873, 1973 is my birth date, when I was my year of birth. And I want to make sure that I take care of that dash. So, now not too many people have, I will tell you this, nobody's ever seen that. That's me in the yellow, bright yellow. Now the reason why I show this, because I thought I had gotten rid of everything historically that ever showed this time. Did you ever know this about me? Yeah, good. I'm going to share it with 200 strangers. Thank you. So my friend Jason got me into bodybuilding. He got me into bodybuilding, and so I put everything into it. And after he died, I said, I'm doing one more competition. And I said, if I don't win, this thing is kind of dumb, but I was really pretty good at it for a young guy. As a teenager, I was winning everything in the state of Colorado, and this was a big national show. And if I won this, I'd become a pro. And I didn't win it. I didn't win. I came in third out of 16 guys. And so guess what I did? I quit because I knew this wasn't my path. I knew it wasn't. And so what I did is I got rid of everything that had anything to do with this. This is the only picture, and a friend of mine just sent it to me about 6 months ago. I was like, oh man, where'd you find that? I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wish I had more of them. But my wife came home when we were newly married, and she pulled up into the driveway, and I had taken every trophy I'd ever won from bodybuilding, and they were at our curbside. It was in the trash. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, this is who I was. If I live in the past, I'm going to keep going down in the basement going, man, I was really good. Oh, man, I was really successful. I said, I have got to completely remove, this chapter is a part of me, but I've got to completely remove this chapter to move on. I don't want to live in the past, because I think living in the past a lot of times sets us up for failure, for success later. Did you like that picture? Yeah. We got to avoid comfort. So one thing I didn't tell you about that story, let's go back. I was a middleweight. That means I was like an in-between weight. Those two guys on the side of me that you can only see, and there's like 16 other, they're light heavyweights. I was the only middleweight in the whole competition. They said, Loren, you're the only middleweight in this competition. You have an option. You have the option to compete as a standalone. I'm like, oh, that's dumb. Or you can move up a weight class, give up about 15 to 20 pounds to every competitor and compete with them. I'm like, well, let's go up. Like, I didn't work hard, I didn't diet, I didn't do all these things to just go out there and have a chance to win the overall. The overall would then turn you pro. I was like, we're going up. We're going up. I ended up taking third out of 16, but it was unique because I avoided comfort. The easy thing would have been said, yeah, give me my first place trophy, now let's compete for the overall. Let's try and get a pro qualifying card. No. I avoided comfort. And a lot of times we don't do that in life. Who in here knows who Roger Bannister is? Ooh, okay. Well, who was he? Yep, he was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. Do you know how many times it's been broken since then? A lot. But it took him to do that, for people to sit there and say, it can be done. We got to avoid comfort. We got to push, but we got to create ignition. That ignition is what Roger Bannister did. We've seen that ignition here locally. We've seen a Missy Franklin. All of a sudden, a Missy Franklin, who I was fortunate enough to train through here to there, we've seen her change a culture of swimming in Colorado. We've seen those things. We've seen a Christian McCaffrey do those things. They're an ignition. They're an ignition that these things can happen. I love this quote. If someone offers you an amazing opportunity, you're not sure you can do it, say yes and figure it out later. I'm the king of that. I am the king of that. I'm like, yeah, you want me to write a book? Cool. Oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing writing a book. Okay, I'm going to figure this out. And I think sometimes we live so much in that comfort zone that we're unwilling to step outside of it. We've got to step outside of it. And sometimes we fail. Sometimes we fail. We take on something, I'm like, oh my God, I almost had to cancel yesterday. That would have killed me. But sometimes we fail in things, but humble pie tastes good because it hurts. It hurts. It hurts right here. It hurts deep in your soul. And sometimes we've got to put ourselves out there to have a bite of that humble pie. But the key that I tell my athletes is you have to have bounce back power. They're like, what's that? And I tried it out with my kids. I stole this from somebody. I tried it with my kids too. My kids think I'm real dumb sometimes. But so what I do is I was trying to come up with like different metaphors, different analogies of what to me bounce back power is. Anybody else? Anyone? Oh, I got to keep one up here. So, you know, I always test things out with my kids. They're like, Dad, that's dumb. I said, I know. So what I do is my wife and I, we argue a lot as far as how we discipline our kids. She's really nice and sweet, and I'm not. Like, I'm pretty tough and challenging. Don't get me wrong, she holds the parameters, but we have a different parenting style. Well, for me, I want my kids to have bounce back power. Because if my wife, well, I gotta wait for it to stop. Anybody have one that's not blinking? It'll stop here in a sec. If my wife is always coddling them and taking good care of them, I have no idea how special this thing can be. We've got to have bounce back power, and it's got to hurt sometimes. It's got to hurt. It's got to be uncomfortable. And I tell my wife, I'm like, don't coddle them. Don't do that. They need to know what it feels like so they can have bounce back power. You might try that. You try yours? Did it work? There you go. But you didn't catch it soft. We've got to have bounce back power, and that's one thing that I always tell my athletes. I need you to have failure. Emmanuel Sanders played in the Super Bowl last week. I was with him during those dark days of rehab. And before he left our team, I said, do me a favor, whether you're on our team or this was before we knew he was getting traded. I said, whether you're on our team or you're moving forward, here's what I need you to do. Go back to January. Go back 8 months ago, and I need you to have perspective of where you were. You didn't think you were going to play again. 32 years old with an Achilles tear, you did not think you were going to play again. I go, now look at the year you're having. You're having a great year. Nobody's even talking about your injury. And turn around now, and now he was turning around a week later and playing in a Super Bowl. We've got to have that bounce back power, and it hurts. But what happens a lot of times, why we avoid comfort or discomfort, is we have a fear. And fear is usually the roadblock. It puts up that stop sign. It puts up that hand and says, stop. Go to plan B. Well, what's the fear of? Is it a fear of failure? I'm afraid of what my peers will think. Fear of success. This was always a weird one to me. I never understood that. What does that mean? That's so dumb. And then I was like, oh, gosh, if my daughter gets a 4.0 in a semester, she's going to have the fear of success because it's going to be hard to maintain that. So fear of success is what can we maintain? That's probably the hardest thing about the NFL. Can I maintain that high level of ability every day? That is a tough one. Fear of success is a tricky one because you'll see people that self-sabotage. You'll see people that lower the bar because they're afraid of their inability to maybe repeat that. Fear of the past. What's the past? The past is just a dumb memory. The future, that's just your imagination. But we need to be where your feet are. You need to be where your feet are. You need to be grounded. You need to be where you are today. A lot of my players are always concerned with the past. Well, this happened or that happened, or what if this doesn't happen? You can't worry about those things. One has already happened. The other one is just your imagination of what has maybe happened in the past. You've got to be where your feet are. That's one thing I say to my guys before games. I'll warm them up, and I say, be where your feet are today. Whether it's a bad call, good call, whatever. Bad play, you got burned. Even if you scored, be where your feet are. What I find in business, So a majority of my coaches that work for me in my private business, they're independent contractors. And what happens when they start with me is they come out of the gate. And they're like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, and they tell me all these great things they're going to do. And then they realize, oh man, this stuff's hard. Life is hard. Things don't quite go the way you think. Well, to me, it's a projection problem. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year of business or career. Then they underestimate what they can accomplish by year 5. Here's why. Because they had that humble pie of year 1, and now everything that they put on their goal sheet, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do that. And so what happens is now they retract their goals. They quit pushing as hard because they were unable to attain what they thought they could in year 1. They were overzealous. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. But if you're not mature enough to understand that, that's a problem. So they underestimate what they can accomplish by year 5, and they can't even fathom what can be accomplished by year 10. The main culprit is that most people overpromise and underdeliver. Man, that happens all the time. Think about just about anywhere you go. Somebody tries to sell you on this, that, or I see it in my own facility. Trainers on day 1, they'll be talking to parents and athletes, and they'll say, here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to do this, this, and this, and this. Who holds them accountable after that? Were they able to truly deliver that? Or did they overpromise? One thing I was, as Jamie said, getting him ready for the NFL, I did for 20 years was get athletes ready for the NFL Combine. And that's like a big track and field day for these guys to get drafted. And every athlete would always be like, if they're a wide receiver, they're like, I'm going to run 4.4. I said, here's the deal. When you're talking and interviewing with the scouts, never say that. Don't create proclamation. Sit there and say, you know what, my goal is to put my best athletic ability out there, and I'm hoping to run X. But never tell them the fastest you can run. Because if you don't hit it, they're going to be disappointed. So hold it in check. I'm not saying play it safe. I'm saying be realistic at the same time. But we have to understand that fear is fertilizer, and that's where the growth happens. Fear is fertilizer. All of our failures, we learn from. They always say, it's always so cliche. I work a lot in the fight game. In the fight game, I either win or I learn. They never say they lose. I either win or I learn. They never say the word lose. Those fighters learn so much more after a loss. After a loss, you're so much more introspective about how the process went. You'll back engineer how your entire training camp went. Hey, did I maybe enjoy a little too much nightlife and partying? Did I maybe not take my training as seriously? Did I not listen to my coaches as much as I thought I did? It makes them look introspectively. That's why losses are good. Just not if you're in the NFL. So we have to find out who the people are around us. Who are we? What motivates us? What drives us? Well, this is not from me. This is some literature that had come out about what drives people. And they came up, there were 4 things that really drove people. And that was to acquire, to bond, to learn, and defend. Acquire, top left corner. Cars, money, houses, extrinsic value. Extrinsic. Top right corner, bonding. Team, being a part of something bigger, a community, a culture. Bottom left corner, knowledge. Have you ever met some of those people, they want to know everything about everything, and they will research and they will do all this? Those people are really driven by the acquiring of knowledge and the ability to know every little detail about that subject. Bottom right corner, defend. Defend doesn't mean necessarily survival. It means defend, protecting my home, my family, making sure that I can support for them so I can send my kids to college, pay for weddings, whatever the case may be. My players, defending might be starting position on the team, their roster spot, making the 53-man roster. Those might be the things that they defend. Well, the problem is top left corner, unfortunately, most people are extrinsically motivated. And if you're extrinsically motivated, it is fleeting. It leaves you. You all know it. You get something cool for Christmas. You're like, got that new Apple Watch? Okay, cool. I want it so bad. Now I got it. I'm like, okay, that novelty has wore off. The novelty from the other three never wears off. Those are intrinsic drives. Those intrinsic drives, as Jamie said, people are always like, oh, you're so good at speed development. You're so good at that. I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm okay, but I'm really good at relationships. And when I'm good at relationships, I can bond with you, and I can get you to learn the strategies that I want. But if I sit there and I try to hold the carrot of, you know what, if you run a fast 40, you're gonna be able to get that cool car, you're gonna be able to do X, Y, Z, that's fleeting. And I can't teach you. I can't teach you if that's your motivation. But if your motivation is to defend, be part of something bigger in bonding or learning, I can teach you. So for me, that's what I try to do in my current situation. In the Denver Broncos, if I've got 90 guys and there's 4 of my coaches, how am I going to bond with 90 guys? I have to pick my moments. I have to be a really good listener. I have to be a really good listener and remember things about that conversation to stir up further conversation. I have to take a true care and concern in what they're telling me. I hear some really deep, dark things. I can't judge. I've got to be there as an open forum and listen and help them or get them the help. But I always want to show them that I care. We got to begin with the, oh, that text didn't come through on that slide, huh? Or did it? You got to begin with the end in mind. So the outer ring is legacy. Legacy. Everybody has to determine, what is your legacy going to be? My legacy, I want to provide and hopefully cultivate a community that can teach people a safe way of exercise, a healthy way of exercise to take care of their mind and their body. But I need to be realistic about where I am today. That's the middle dot. Be realistic about where I am today. Oh, thank you. Where we are today, where we want to be tomorrow, but what will my legacy be? There was a Hall of Fame, it was a Hall of Fame speech by Aeneas Williams. And he says, you got to begin with the end in mind. And to me, that's our legacy. And everybody in here wants to leave a legacy, whether that's for your children, your community, whatever it is. Everybody wants to leave that legacy. We have to know what we want that to be. And we have to take a realistic look at who we are today, where we want to be tomorrow, and how we get there. Oop, I think you might need to forward for me now. Cool. So how do we get to the goal, the legacy? We have to have a vision. We have to have a vision. It starts with that. And you know what's funny? I've changed the order of these things so many times because every time I look at it, I'm like, well, maybe this has to go here and this has to go there. But it has to start with a vision. And I better be stinking passionate about that vision. I better be very passionate about that vision. Passion does fleet. So I better believe in what my vision is. I better have a strong core belief in what my vision is. Because there's going to be times that it's not there. I've got to have a strong belief in what I felt this was. I've got to be committed to the process. I've got to be committed to this thing. And then I got to be strong. Especially when that starts to hurt a little bit. I've got to be strong. Well, what is strength? People talk about it all the time. There's mental toughness, mental strength. Mental toughness. I think mental toughness, and this is just me, I think mental toughness is running through that wall. I've got an athlete. He's going to do whatever I ask, and he's going to run through that wall. But I think mental strength's a little bit different. How intentful can you be when you don't want to be? How disciplined can you be to the process when you don't want to be? That's mental strength. We were fortunate enough, we went 4-1 our last 5 games with the Broncos. We had some real test of mental strength going down that bend because it gets dark. It's tough. And trying to rally guys around this thing, keeping focus, keeping vision, keeping all those things when you're feeling sorry for yourself, when you're tired, when you're hurt. Well, mental strength is that ability to keep going when maybe you don't want to. And I don't think a lot of people have that. I think there's situations, I think there's chapters within our dash that teach us to be that way. But if we play a victim and we don't have bounce back to power, but we play a victim or somebody enables us, we don't learn to be more resilient. Well, I came up with a couple, they're all C words. I don't know how that happened. But some words that I thought had a body of mental toughness, mental strength. Competitive, confident, control, and committed. Those are the bottom four, those are the perimeter corners. Competitive, confident, control, committed. And then the inside, composure, courage, consistency, character. I feel those inside, those core, I feel those are more the trait of mental strength. Now, everybody in here may have a different vision of that, but that's how I feel. But really, mental strength comes down to this. Can you have focus? Can you have intent into what it is you're doing? A lot of things that I deal with in my world are really driven on technique principles. So how strong of a focus can you have? How much intent can you have and attention can you have for the quality that I need? And that's hard when you're fatigued, when you're feeling sorry for yourself, or when you're injured. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. The common problem that people have when they're going after their goals is maybe they do have the mental strength component, but what happens, the common problem, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is self-sabotage. I think, were you and I talking about this, Jamie, at the beginning? Self-sabotage. People's goals and actions are usually contradictory. Oh, I want to have a six-pack, but I'm going to have the six-pack of beer. I want to be the best X, Y, and Z, but I'm staying up all night playing video games. That's real world in my world. So are your actions and your goals, are they matching? And I always say this, don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want at the moment. That right there sums it up. We all do it. Oh, I want this because it makes me feel really good right now, but it took me further away from my goal. We all do this at different times. We've got to be disciplined. One thing, I work with a lot of younger people. I'm sure everybody in this room does as well. But I always tell my athletes, avoid proclamation, especially on social media. And one thing that we tend to see a lot of in our world, whether we're business leaders or owners, is we see the self-proclamation on social media a lot. Hey, we've got this coming. Wait till you see the news we've got coming. And no better time than the start of the year when people always have these self-proclamations of how we're going to change ourselves, how we're going to change our business, how we're going to change our model. No day of the week, no start of the month, no change of a year will ever lead you to change or to your goals if you aren't committed to the process. You have to be process over outcome driven. Well, I want to run 4-4. Are you willing to do everything in your power to run 4-4? Are you willing to have the mindset and the intent every day to listen to me when it sounds like I'm telling you the same thing every day? Are you mentally strong enough to have that thought process, a process over outcome? That book, Chop Wood, Carry Water, that's the whole context of that book. How many people in here have read that? Chop Wood, Carry Water. The whole premise of that book is consistency, day in and day out, fundamentally. When we're looking at our goals, goals need to be SMART. You know, this is an acronym. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic. They've got to be time-bound. They've got to be time-bound. That's probably the most important thing. Like, look, they need to be realistic, no doubt, but time-bound. I have to understand the amount of time I'm working with to achieve X. Otherwise, again, it's just further proclamation. We got to make the main thing the main thing. How many times do you hear people say, well, you know what, we're going to take an evaluation of this athlete, and we're going to look at their strengths, and we're going to look at their weaknesses, and yeah, they're really good at this, but we really need to raise up their weaknesses. I said, double down on your strengths. Address your weaknesses, double down on your strengths, because your strengths are what got you to the dance. Jamie, can you come up here real quick? Oh, no. I told you. Huh? You got a weak back? Back, yeah. So here's what I'm going to have Jamie do, but I don't know. This is like the strongest person I've ever done this demo with. Okay, arms straight out. How's your shoulder health? Good? Just one arm. Okay, so here's what I want you to do for me. I want you to think that you're an I-beam going straight across into that wall. I'm going to try and push you down. You don't let me, okay? Ready, resist. God, you're so strong. So now here's what I want you to do, Jamie, okay? I want you to put your arms straight out again. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to count backwards by 2 from 100, out loud. Ready? Begin.
98, 96, 94, 92, 90.
He's still pretty strong, but when we didn't make the main thing, he couldn't do it anymore. He wasn't as good at it. So what happened? Thank you. That's all I need you for. Thank you. Good job, Jamie. We got to make the main thing. In my world, I deal with it all the time because all my athletes, like they're the best in the world. They're the best at this, at football. But then all of a sudden they really spin off on their brand, and I want to do this, and I want to start this clothing line, and I want to do all that. And all those things are distraction. Take them away from that. You've got to make the main thing. But we do that too in the business world. How many times do we spread ourselves so thin, and next thing you know, you haven't made anybody happy? That happens all the time. We overextend, we take ourselves too broad, and we end up upsetting everybody. But I was just trying to help everybody. Well, you didn't do a good job of that. I almost did that to you today. Make the main thing. Be a master of your craft. Double down, like I said, on what it is you do. I tell, anybody here from Starbucks? Anybody? Like nobody has a Starbucks tie here? So I go to Starbucks for the coffee. I don't go there for the sandwiches. I don't go there for the other things. I'm really hungry. I want to go get a sandwich. I don't do that. I go for the coffee. For me, it's like make the main thing. I'm sure they sell plenty of sandwiches, but make the main thing. Be a master of your craft. So this is what I did. After our bye week, I had read this book, and I talked to the powers that be and said, man, I really read this great book. I have an idea. At the end of the season, I want to get a copy for all of our players. And so the power that be who I told, he said, send it to me. So I sent it to him. Comes up to me after a game. He goes, I read it. I love it. I go, well, here's my thought. I want to still do this at the end of the year. He goes, no. He goes, do it after the bye week. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I was like, okay. I ordered 80 copies, and inside, I inscribed to every player personal messages. Personal messages I inscribed. Some guys do this already. Hey, you know the deal. But on page 58, you're going to like this. I inscribed a personal message to each player, and I gave it to them. When they came back, they were either getting them from my office or they were in their lockers. And I was like, okay, we're going to see how this goes. How many of these guys? First of all, it's a real quick, easy read, which is nice. But the best part about this is players were starting to read it. They were putting it on social media. And so, like, the social media world and my world, it spreads like wildfire. And so when our guys started to put that out there, like, you know what, I need to pick that up. And so other guys in the locker room started reading it. Guys are reading it on the plane to away games. It was a really cool thing. Did it help? I have no idea. But the message is process over outcome. And that's for me. I am not a rah-rah guy. I am not going to fire you up by rah-rah and telling you how great you are. I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm going to probably hit you right upside the head because I know, because I've spent enough time with you, that I know what your drive is. That's why relationships are key. And that's why I could write to every guy an independent message, because I know my guys. This is something I'm still trying to get across. Sweeping out. How many people know what sweeping out is? You know everything. The All Blacks doing the haka. How many people know the term sweeping out? Okay, awesome. So if you don't know anything about team sports, the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team, the most successful team in sporting history. The most successful. Well, they have a strong culture. Right there, that's something called the haka that they're doing. It's a old tribal dance before battle, before war, is my understanding. Is that right? Okay. Intimidation, it works. If you haven't seen the haka, look it up on YouTube. It's really cool to watch. You'll get goosebumps watching it. But they have a culture within their locker room called sweeping out. And what it is their biggest players, their best players, their Peyton Mannings of their team, clean out the locker room. They call it the shed. They clean out their locker room. They're sweeping it. They're picking up the tape off the ground. They're not the rookies, not the janitorial staff, the best players. Never forget where you came from. Don't forget what got you there. That's a message I tell all my employees at my private business, my players. Hey, the work ethic that you showed going from college to the pros, keep it. Because a lot of guys, once they get to the pros, are like, made it, got it, cool. They start, I always say it's hard to be hungry when you're sleeping in silk sheets. So you get a little taste of that money, and all of a sudden your work ethic may start to decline. You've got to redirect yourself. You've got to reset the compass and continue doing what got you there. That's my story, my quick snapshot of how I look at things, how I view things. It could be right, wrong, or indifferent. I know there's plenty of people out there be like, oh, the one thing I say is no proclamations. I never tell anybody my goals. I don't tell anybody what my goals are. I keep those in here. A lot of people say, no, tell people so they hold you accountable. If I can't hold myself accountable, why should I tell anybody else? And why should I expect you to hold me accountable? I don't tell anybody what my goals are moving forward in my business world or anything. I keep them here. I hold myself in check every day. So now with that being said, I have my days too, no doubt about it. But one thing I always tell my staff and my players, like, you might come in, and every day in this world, we're either the hammer or the nail. Every day. But I will tell you this, my players and my employees will never know which one I am on the given day. I try to be the same guy every day. I will not excite you with rah-rah. I'm going to be the same guy every day, no matter what's happening. So that's a little bit inside in my world. My world's unique. I deal with some unique variables, maybe not all the typical like corporate things that you guys have to deal with all the time, but at the end of the day, I think it comes down to two things in my profession. It comes down to relationships and results. If I can get the 2 R's, I win. If I'm good at relationships but I get no results, I'll be there for a little bit, but it's not going to be long lasting. On the flip side, if I'm good at results and I don't have relationships, same thing. I won't stick forever. So you got to have both. And that's my opinion on it.